Dr. House from House MD meets people. House meets Sean Murphy from The Good Doctor. House, so, you're the wunderkind surgeon with autism and savant syndrome. Impressive resume. How do you handle all the touchy-feely stuff in the hospital? Sean, I focus on the medicine. Emotions can be confusing, but the human body is logical. It's like a puzzle that needs solving. House, puzzles, huh? I can relate to that. But what happens when the pieces don't fit? When the patient doesn't follow the textbook? Sean, I adapt. I use my abilities to see things others might miss. It's about finding the right diagnosis, no matter how unconventional. House, unconventional is my middle name. But tell me, how do you deal with all the people who doubt you? The ones who think you're just a kid playing doctor. Sean, I prove them wrong by being the best. I let my work speak for itself. And I have people who believe in me, like Dr. Glassman. House, belief is overrated. Results are what matter. But I have to admit, your approach is intriguing. Maybe there's more to you than meets the eye. Sean, thank you, Dr. House. I think we could learn a lot from each other. Different perspectives can lead to better solutions. House, agreed. Just don't expect me to hold your hand through it. I'm not exactly the nurturing type. House meets Negan from The Walking Dead. House, so you're the guy with the bat fetish. Interesting choice of weapon. Compensating for something. Negan, well, if it isn't the crippled genius. You know, I like you already. You've got guts. Let's see if you can keep them inside. House, guts are overrated. It's the brain that matters. Speaking of which, how's yours? Any signs of activity? Negan, oh, there's plenty of activity up here, Doc. Enough to keep you on your toes. But let's cut to the chase. Can you fix my guy or not? House, depends. Can you stop swinging that bat around like a deranged piñata? It's distracting. Negan, fair enough. But remember, Doc, if you mess this up, Lucille here gets a new friend. House meets Walter White from Breaking Bad. House, limping in, eyebrow raised, well. Look who we have here. Aren't you a long way from Albuquerque? What's the problem, Mr. White? Another run-in with the cartel. Walter, adjusting his glasses, coldly, it's nothing you'd understand, Doctor. Let's just say, I was experimenting with some new compounds. House, yeah, I'm sure your little experiments wouldn't pass FDA standards. So, what brings you to my hospital? Sudden onset of guilt, or did you just run out of blue meth? Walter, if I needed your sarcasm, I'd go back to my students. I'm here because I heard you're the best. And this, pulls up his sleeve to reveal a rash spreading up his arm, isn't something my associates can fix. House, examines the rash, looks nasty. Hope you haven't been cooking up anything new. But let's get one thing straight, I don't care what you've been doing out there. In here, I'm the one in control. So, any other symptoms, or do you prefer I guess? Walter, reluctantly, fever, nausea. And, occasional hallucinations. Think you can handle that, Doctor? House, hallucinations, huh? That's a new one. Maybe you're just seeing the ghosts of your past mistakes. Let's run some tests. And while we're at it, keep your Heisenberg persona in check. Here, you're just another patient. Walter, smirks, fine. But remember, doctor, not every patient fits neatly into your diagnostic puzzles. House, grinning, oh, I know. That's what makes it fun. House meets Sherlock Holmes. House, so, you're the famous detective. I hear you solve crimes with nothing but a magnifying glass and a pipe. Impressive. Holmes, and you must be the diagnostician who treats patients like puzzles. I must say, your methods are unorthodox. House, unorthodox is just a fancy word for effective. Speaking of which, how do you handle all that Victorian melodrama? Must be exhausting. Holmes, I find it quite stimulating, actually. Much like your penchant for sarcasm. Tell me, do you ever tire of being the smartest person in the room? House, only when I'm alone. But enough about me. How do you keep that hat on with all the ego underneath? Holmes, a question for the ages. Perhaps we should compare notes. Your medical mysteries and my criminal cases might have more in common than we think. House meets Hannibal Lecter. House, so, you're the infamous Dr. Lecter. I've heard you're quite the gourmet. Ever consider going vegan? Lecter, ah, Dr. House. Your reputation precedes you. I must say, your wit is as sharp as your diagnostic skills. But veganism? That would be unfulfilling. House, I suppose human liver with fava beans and a nice Chianti is more your style. Tell me, do you ever get tired of playing God? Lecter, we all play God in our own ways, don't we? You with your patience, me with my culinary experiments. It's all about control and understanding the human condition. House, control, huh? Funny, I always thought it was about solving puzzles. But I guess your puzzles are a bit more permanent. Lecter, indeed. And what about you, Dr. House? Do you ever wonder if your relentless pursuit of the truth is just another form of control? House, every day. But at least my patients get to walk away. Most of the time. Speaking of which, any chance you'd let me take a look at your brain? Purely for scientific curiosity, of course. Lecter, I'm afraid that would be quite impossible. But I must admit, the idea of you dissecting my mind is intriguing. Perhaps we could exchange notes instead. House meets himself. House, prime, well, this is weird. I always knew I was my own worst enemy, but this is taking it to a whole new level. House, alternate, tell me about it. So, what's your deal? Same miserable job, same leg, same Vicodin addiction. House, prime, pretty much. Though I like to think I'm a bit more charming. How about you? Any major differences in your universe? House, alternate, oh, you know, the usual. Different patients, different puzzles. But the same old existential dread. Ever wonder if we're just characters in someone else's story? House, prime, all the time. But hey, at least we're interesting characters. So, what's the most bizarre case you've solved? House, alternate, had a patient who was convinced he was from another dimension. Turned out he had a rare form of encephalitis. You. House, prime, a woman who thought she was allergic to water. Turned out to be a psychological condition. Fun times. House, alternate, you know, we should team up. Two houses are better than one. Think of the chaos we could cause. House, prime, or the lives we could save. But mostly the chaos. House meets Michael Myers. House, well, look who it is. The strong, silent type. You know, most people would find your lack of conversation skills unsettling. Me. I find it refreshing. Less talking, more listening. Michael Myers. House, so, what's your deal? Childhood trauma? Repressed anger? Or are you just a fan of the classics? I mean, that mask is a bit retro, don't you think? Michael Myers. House, not much for small talk, huh? That's fine. I can carry the conversation. You know, I've dealt with a lot of psychos in my time. Patients who think they're Napoleon, people who hear voices. But you're a whole new level of creepy. Michael Myers. House, you know, if you ever get tired of the whole stalking and slashing gig, you could always try therapy. Or maybe a hobby. Knitting, perhaps. Something to keep those hands busy. Michael takes a step closer. House, okay, I get it. You're not here for a chat. But seriously, what's the end game here? You just keep going until someone finally stops you? Or is there something deeper? A purpose? Michael Myers. House, well, whatever it is, good luck with that. Just remember, if you ever need a diagnosis, I'm your guy. Though I doubt even I could figure out what's going on in that head of yours. House meets a wall. House, well, look at you. Tall, sturdy, and completely unresponsive. Just like most of my patients. House taps the wall with his cane. House, so, what's your story? Built in the 80s? 90s? Got any cracks or leaks I should know about? The wall remains silent, as walls do. House, silent treatment, huh? I get it. You're a strong, silent type. But let me tell you, I've seen tougher. Ever heard of a brick wall? Now that's a real challenge. House leans against the wall, pretending to listen. House, oh really? You don't say. Fascinating. You know, you're a great listener. Ever thought about a career in therapy? House chuckles to himself. House, all right, enough fun. Time to get back to work. But if you ever need a good coat of paint or some structural reinforcement, you know where to find me.